Hello, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello, Mr. Triplett. We're having technical difficulties, so the meeting hasn't started yet. We're trying to get the sound together for the people in the room. Welcome.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate y'all.
Thumbs up. Hello? They should be able to. Gina, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? All right, thank you. All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the West End Opportunity Partnership Board meeting. Today is Saturday, October the 16th, and it is about 12:08 p.m. We are in person and in virtual on a Zoom meeting today. The meeting is scheduled to last from 12 noon to 2 p.m. And we're at the YMCA Republic Center. And I want to start off with saying thank you for letting us be here today. Yeah, so I'll let you talk with us about that.
Well, thank you all and welcome those of you that are in the room. Welcome those that are online. I see many names and faces that I recognize. I'm very delighted about that. They were gracious enough to give me a minute or two to talk a little bit about what created this project. And so I will tell you, this was about 12 years in the making. And I see Sadiq was on the line. I know Sadiq knows about journeys for projects as well. But in any case, we had a very simple vision in spite of the complexities of the project. And it was built around community integrated health through the lens of health equity. So it's the basis of this. A lot of the inspiration for this comes from our friend, Dr. Adewale Troutman, who many of you would know, who was here, became a mentor and very close friend of mine, and who kind of gave us, schooled our entire community on the concept of health equity. And so that inspired us at the YMCA to expand our definition of health beyond just fitness and look at it through the lens of social determinants of health. So we've been very involved in education. We just broke ground about 4 weeks ago for a new school that'll be attached to this building, bringing the health and education continuums more close together. And, there are 8 partners under roof here, under the umbrella of increasing access to healthy choices. Because what I learned on my health equity journey is the choices people make are the choices people have. Everybody in our community does not have the same access to healthy choices. So we wanted to be a partner in that collaboratively, and here we are. So we're grateful for that. Frequently, people, just as President James did, thank me for allowing people to be here. And what I tell him is he's got it backwards. I should be thanking you all for being here because that's the reason we built the place for things like this. And later today, we have a big event sponsored by the Volunteers of America. Jennifer, it's good to see you. And I hope that you all will cruise that area before you leave here today. And maybe some of you virtually could come by and see it as well. It goes from 1 to 4, lots of activities are built around quality, trustworthy vaccine information and access to those testing and vaccinations as well. Plus, they got some great prizes and so forth that you could win as well. Our partnership with Norton, we've given, or at this location has been the location for delivering 28,000 vaccinations, going back to the early days, many of which took place right here in this room. Then they moved to the gymnasium, and now we're watching the demand for that. But in any case, the point is we're here to improve access, reduce barriers to healthy choices. It's really that simple. And so you all are welcome here anytime and to visit with us or to inquire about the various services that go on here. And we can introduce you not only to the YMCA, but to our partners. So we're honored that you all are here, and we wish you the best for your meeting, and look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You caught the name at the beginning of your talk.
No, Steve.
A lot of people, yeah,
That's right.
there's a lot of people who know you, but there may be some who don't.
Okay, well, it's nice to meet all of you. My older friend, not older, but my longer term friends and my new friends as well. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we'll do a roll call. Rita?
Jen Michael Brown,
I'm here on Zoom.
Dina Dunlap,
Present on Zoom.
Jennifer Hancock. Here. Stephon Holt. Stephon Holt. David Jones,
Here.
David Kaplan,
Here.
Sadiqa Reynolds,
Here. On Zoom.
Christina Shea. Here. Dr. Francina,
Here.
Steve Trainer. Dr. Don Wayne. Here. Mark J. Watkins. I know Mark is trying to get in, so we'll wait and see. Rebecca Fleischaker. Here. And Jeff Taylor.
Present virtually.
We can open.
All right, thank you. Rita, Mark is listed down there. I don't know. That's on.
Yeah, I see him now. Okay, I got him. Mark?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't hear you when I called roll, but I got you a present. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, next on the agenda is unfinished business. And you all should have received in an email a letter from Center for Neighborhoods. Did everybody get that?
Yeah, that was from the previous meeting. But if you haven't had a chance, I do have some copies I can leave with you today. But there are two letters of support that they're putting on the table for the West End Opportunity Partnership. So I just wanted to make sure that was on the agenda to bring that to the board's attention. So I have a couple of copies I'll leave with you today so that you can definitely review those. Those were in the Google Drive from the last meeting. And I have those with me now. So I'll pass them out as we continue down the agenda.
All right, thank you. Then next we have approval of the minutes from our last meeting. I hope everybody had a chance to look at the last meeting. Can I have a motion for approval? Or maybe I should say, are there any corrections or deletions first for the minute?
I'm sorry, I have a question regarding the unfinished business.
Sure.
I guess having read the letters, I don't know that I would just explicitly characterize them as letters of support. I think there are several recommendations of how the board conducts business and so forth. So I'm just wondering what exactly we're doing with those.
I'm just making sure everybody recognizes that we got the letters and understands that we have the letters, and then as we move forward and we get a full board, then we'll start talking about it. Yeah. All right. Any corrections or additions, deletions to the minutes?
Before you do that, David, can I hear what Christina said? I just want to make sure I understand.
Sure.
I couldn't hear her very well.
Okay.
Yeah, I said having read the letters, I don't know that I would characterize them as just outright support, but rather letters with recommendations in terms of how we conduct business. And so wanted to understand what the process will be for having a conversation about that.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. All in favor of adopting the minutes or accepting the minutes or approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
I'm sorry. I need a motion to approve the minutes. I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to go through the minutes.
Motion by Ms. Fleischaker to approve the minutes as written. Second. We have a second by Dr. Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And I'm abstaining.
Okay. So we have the minutes passed with one extension with Ms. Reynolds. Okay. All right. Next we have committee updates. We have the board development committee chair, Mr. Holt. Is he in yet? John Holt?
I got an email from him this morning that he was going to be online.
Okay.
He's in Cincinnati,
Yeah.
so I don't see him.
He's driving. My last word.
All right. So we're gonna skip over that for a moment until we can get in touch with him. And next we'll have Finance Committee, Steve Traeger.
If Steve's out of town with us.
Steve's out of town. All right. Well, this will go quick.
Mhm.
Then we have the ad hoc committee, that, J. Michael Brown was, leading up to. Is J. Michael Brown there?
J. Michael, Gina, and I think Dr. Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. I reached out personally to the general counsel's office of the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis and contacted one of the lawyers up there who was in charge of basically what you would say ethics and compliance. After a lengthy conversation and in reviewing the statute which operates the Federal Reserve Bank, which is a very unusual entity in and of itself, but we won't go into that at this point in time. The council informed me, that board members would not be able to serve in the capacity on WEOP or boards of that nature. There is an open question as to what other employees or representatives of the Federal Reserve Bank might be able to do if they were allowed to be on the board. In other words, there would be several issues that they would likely have to recuse themselves from. I put that council in touch with the governor's general counsel's office. And I think they also contacted one of the attorneys from Frost Brown Todd, and they were collaborating on a path forward, both that would include recommendations to the General Assembly for a legislative fix, as well as what might be included as far as the limitations and parameters of participation by the Federal Reserve. And when all that gets hammered out, I'll present something back to the board.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
Yeah, for David?
Any insight on whether a board member on the Federal Reserve could serve on a committee of the WEOP without serving on the board?
I don't know that we addressed that specific question, but I can pass that on. The likelihood is, in my opinion, is that that would be allowable, since there could be a lot of subcommittees that have outside participation, but don't actually have votes on the board. But I limited the inquiry initially to just the appointment of Sadiqa as a board member to the WEOP board and what was our allowable participation. I did not get into the next level of questions with the Fed.
I guess the other question is, if I don't have the statute in my binder here, but I'm assuming that it is just an appointment from the Federal Reserve Board. It doesn't have to be a board member. My concern was we would wind up with if we can't fill that appointment, we wind up with a 20-person board.
Right.
And then it could be deadlocked in certain cases. So I wondered if we know for sure they could, as long as it's not a board member, we could still fill that seat with someone associated with the Federal Reserve Board.
All right, well, let me point out again, as I said at the last meeting, there is no such thing as we fill that seat at this point. If Reynolds cannot serve as the governor's appointee per the statute, and the Federal Reserve, however, says that another representative could serve, then it would be up to the governor to make the adjustments to those board's appointments.
It sounds like we can have a 21-person board. That's good. Good news.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr. Brown. Ms. Reynolds, did you want to speak?
Oh, yeah. So the information that I have is just slightly different. My understanding was that a Fed board member or representative would not be allowed to vote on financial matters, but could serve. So I'm sort of I really don't, listen, I can resign. I'm fine with that today. Absolutely fine to do that. I think, and I want to just say for the record what I've said before, this was something that we believe that the chair of One West is a member of the Federal Reserve Board of the Federal Reserve Bank, and helped to, certainly we all know that it was One West Council that helped to establish this TIF. So it is an interesting position for the governor to now be in, but I am happy to step out. And just because I did have some work on it, I want to say before I close that I think Devon is going to suggest some changes today or some process for the applications. I think anything referencing business acumen or anything that does not allow for community involvement makes it more complicated for the community to be involved. We should definitely not insert into this process. And so with that, I will tender my resignation and I look forward to watching you all from the outside. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, Ms. Reynolds, I want to say that, thank you for the time that you were serving on the board, and I know that you won't be a stranger to the board, or to anything that it does, and I look forward to still working with you and communicating with you, and we're going to miss you.
We want to wait until we have a final recommendation from this committee.
That's up to.
No, I need to go. I want to go ahead and resign immediately. Thank you all so much.
Okay. Well,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome.
Mr. Brown, did you have anything else?
No, I mean, I think at this point, once again, the board is not fully constituted, so our office will work, the governor's office will work with the Federal Reserve to determine the next step that Governor Beshear has to take regarding this particular appointment. But since the other 9 have not appointed at any point, again, we still are not at any position of taking final action. And so it's a sort of a no harm, no foul right now.
Okay, thank you. Also, next is new business, the temporary conflict of interest policy and confidentiality statement. Did everybody get one of those in their email? Do you have any extras, Teresa?
I do. This, it's temporary is not on here, but it is for your consideration. We don't have anything. And so what I did, just for your consideration, I should have posted a watermark on there for temporary. I pulled from the statute, the first part, I pulled from the bylaws, the second part, and then I just put a confidentiality statement in there. Now, certainly there's enough attorneys on this board that there can be a committee to figure out something that's just something in the interim for us to look at. So it's nothing I made up. It's what's already in the law in terms of the statute, the bylaws, and then just the general confidentiality statement on the third end. I don't know if there's any issues with that, but I put that out there for your discussion, for your review, for coming up with something.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody on the virtual has theirs with them, but so everybody may not have it.
Right. I will email. I've got it in their email, but I can't get this.
Okay.
I will email it to the participants who are on the call. They'll have that exact same copy.
Okay.
And, you know, it may be something you want to consider for the next board meeting. But I did think that it was worth putting something on the table for you all to have some conversation about.
All right. Well, Rita's going to email it to everybody that's on the virtual, or to everybody actually. And then we can discuss it at our next board meeting. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Next is announcements.
Took the liberty to have Jennifer on there for the event going on today.
Jennifer Hancock, I think you got an event going on.
I do, and I hope all of you will participate in this event this afternoon. It begins at 1 o'clock. So in 30 minutes, we'll have more than 20 vendors set up outside. We have fresh food from a vendor that is providing free boxed whole foods for the first 170 people. We have vaccines, and this is really truly about making vaccines accessible, providing information, answering any questions or concerns. And then we have a few giveaways. So anyone who gets vaccinated today or shows proof of vaccination will be entered into a drawing. We have a race day cactus from Churchill Downs. We have 10 $500 gift cards that we're giving away today to anyone who gets vaccinated or shows proof of vaccination. So it's right outside, facing the street. All the vendors are going to be set up in the grass. You can walk along the sideway or the sidewalk, and we welcome all of you to participate. It's from 1 to 4.
All right, thank you. That sounds exciting. All right, any other announcements? No. Can everybody pull out their calendars so we can schedule our next meeting?
Chair,
Yeah,
this is Gina Dunlap, your
Yes,
vice chair. I realize that we've moved through the proposed agenda rather quickly, and that we may have maybe some surplus time, so to speak,
Yes,
to
ma'am.
accommodate some of the participants that are either in the room from community or on the Zoom from community. At the last meeting, there was much discussion about, having space on our agenda for public comment. And I would just wonder if we have time to entertain some of the visitors, virtual and otherwise, that may want to address the board before we adjourn.
That's a good suggestion. Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, I would move that we allocate perhaps 30 minutes to hear from community members at this time.
All right, do we have a second? Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. So does anybody, I'll do this in an orderly way. Can, by show of hands for the guests we have in the room, how many people wish to speak? 1, 2, 3. All right. And
President James, I would also recommend that people that are on the Zoom put a request to speak in the chat so that we can recognize as well as identify everyone who is speaking.
okay. Do we,
May I suggest, we have the technical situation here.
right,
I can't go into the chat
okay,
here, so if people would come off mute and verbalize their questions, it will be more efficient for us to process today. Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't we do this? So we have 30 minutes. I don't want to run out of time. So why don't we say, everybody gets 4 minutes to speak, and that way we'll make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to speak, okay? All right, and I would ask, we'll start off with the people that are in the room, and I would just ask that you stand up, say who you are for the record, and then start speaking.
Okay, I think I saw, because you're looking at me.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh.
Come to the middle there so they can
They
see you on the
So they
mic.
can see you.
Okay, well, my name is
That's
Ron
perfect.
Walker. I'm the California Neighborhood Leadership Council President. And it's really not me speaking, I just want to ask a question. And I don't know if you can permit that to be public. Were you talking about the emails of the letter of support? Also, I know a lot of things temporary because all the board is not set up. But is that a way that they can also be public, that the public can see those? I understand about board meetings, I understand about things that cannot be given out to the public. But when you said a support letter, but you said it was more like recommendations. So that should be something that could be open
Sure.
as recommendations, because we all have recommendations as the community. Also, the form that you, the confidentiality, I understand, maybe some of the legal jargon that may be in there, but is it any way that we can also on that website, because I can't find your website for the temporary bylaws and those things.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you can, you got my email address,
I do.
please forward. And I'm just wondering, as an open group, can those forms that you have present that was presented to you today and those before, can they be, what can be released?
Sure.
So right now, I really don't have a comment, I'm just asked.
Yes.
President James, before you respond to that, I do want to let you know
Uh-huh.
that I did have Tyler to post the open meetings record.
Mhm.
It's on the website. Ms. Walker, I'll help you find the website. It's very easy. But I had that posted so people could go in
Mhm.
and read the process about how to request information like she just communicated. So that's posted on the website.
Okay.
The Attorney General's office as of June 2020 is the last up. It's on the website, sir.
Agendas and minutes on the website?
The agenda is posted in the public notification, but we can, I have not been posting minutes, but we can. But through the public notification that comes out to announce the meeting, the location, the agenda is part of that along with the Zoom link. So the piece that's not been published yet are the minutes, and if certainly if that's the board's pleasure, whatever the pleasure, we can post whatever.
Okay.
We have some temporary assistance right now, helping with just loading stuff on the website. It's a temporary website at best.
So maybe we should talk about, well, after the post, we'll talk about that news alerts. All right.
Yeah, I mean, on the website, it's westendpartners.org, and there's, you know, if you go into,
News and
if you go
reports.
into about, then inside about, there's FAQs, resources, news.
Mhm.
So this could be,
It's in most of,
we put these letters up on news and people. can-
yeah, there's news and resources is where you will find all the legislative bills, House bills, all the bills, everything. You'll find the announcements there about the board meetings. You'll find the recordings there on the board meetings. You'll find the open meetings record so that people can educate themselves about how you go about requesting records and materials from these board meetings. It's all there.
So we can just post our approved minutes on there also.
You can post whatever you all would like for me to post.
Okay,
Really important.
sure.
I want to make sure that everybody understands about the minutes that will, come following, because you
Right.
can't post the minutes until they've been approved.
Correct.
So I don't want anybody to get frustrated because today's meeting minutes won't be on the Monday. It will be next month.
Right.
No, I'm not talking, we know that.
Okay.
And all the minutes are afterwards, because it has to be finalized. We're talking about the documentation that is going through. And I understand what you said, but everybody may not be technical literate.
Right.
As you say, go to about, because when we go to different websites in different places, we know we have to read every little thing has somewhere to go.
Yeah.
So it may be simplified because we do have some seniors, which I'm a little tech savvy, but I am a senior. And some of the frustration,
Mhm.
but I know how to do it, but some would like to just smack,
Mhm.
here it is, because we're talking about something that is going to affect all of our community.
Mhm.
And it shouldn't be so hard to get to those things. When we are asking everybody to put in, as a good friend of ours on the regular basis, be positive, be optimistic, let's work together. So let's work together and try to simplify it, if not hard.
Anything you'd like for me to send you copies, if you're not on, that's no problem. People contact me all the time for copies of information, and I will email it to them direct. If that is not, doesn't work for you, I'm happy to do copies, and we can connect and I can give you the actual copies.
And I appreciate you for that, but we're talking about me, and I'm able, but I'm talking about the masses, to make it easier for the masses. And there's a lot of us, like everybody sitting here, there's other agendas and everybody's quite busy. And a lot of simple form, because I still have some things to send you. I just haven't got it. I'm just looking at emails, like, you even asked me, did you catch the email? I'm looking at email that was sent to me last week and I just haven't opened my phone. So I appreciate you for that, but we're talking about the masses, just not one individual.
Okay, all right, thank you. Dr. Smith.
Rita and Chair, is there a location centralized where persons could stop by within a certain amount of hours? Or where they could call to secure copy of records, maybe meet you or one of us as board members. I'm just wondering if do we have a place where the community can come and interact with the documents? And maybe pick up copies to give to other concerned community persons as needed.
We currently have our temporary office at the Kentucky Center for American Heritage on the second floor. So it's at the board's pleasure if we're going to set an additional process for picking those up. But we also have to honor the open meetings and open records. So if we're gonna do it all, we just need to understand what that is so that people are clear. And we'll do whatever the board would like for us to do.
And just out of concern for what has been said, and we make this as a general practice as user-friendly as possible so that the community can access the information. And if there are various sites in quadrants of this community or et cetera, but I just want to make sure that we think through and establish the process so that it's ongoing. And a person from the community can be brought up to date in hard copy fashion of what we received.
Ms. Walker, do you have another recommendation out of the county, like the Heritage Center for the senior?
And I guess that can do your record, talk to me, old seniors and individuals in the community.
Is there a reason we can't do it at the public libraries and you
Yeah.
all have partnering organizations that we can come into
And
that are a part of the community?
that is part of there was also a temporary communications plan that we put on hold, but part of that was to get information to the libraries for people to access, to the barbershops, to the hair salons, to the local grocery, those kind of things that would allow people easier access for information. So all of that is well received. There's been extensive discussion and preliminary discussion about it. It's just on the plate to be massaged and move forward at the board's pleasure and the community, of course.
Who is next to speak? Yes, ma'am.
I feel like a fish out of water because I'm really here because 2 days ago, I had to participate.
Wait a minute, could you stand up and come?
Yeah.
So I can hear you and identify yourself.
My name is Denise Dickers.
If you would just come so we can get you on the camera. Hey Denise.
My name is
Yeah.
Denise Dickers. I'm basically here because I had a piece of paper that was put in my fence. I have emailed, but like this sister here is saying, there's a demographic of people that don't go to email every day. I'm so old school. I really believe in telephone calls and hearing somebody on the other end. And what got me here today, being that I live in this community, was this small paper that simply says, so I need somebody to tell me why I'm here, because I'm concerned about my community. You and I have been in weekly meetings years ago because I have been fighting for years Black Leaf Chemical, who lives right behind, it's a poison piece of property right behind my home. We fought tooth and nail to keep institutions from building there. I lost that battle. They're building a warehouse on poison ground behind my home. So with that being said, when I read this, the West End TIF district is activated. Wealthy developers will be able to use West End property taxes for 20 years to make it cheaper and easier for them to build homes and rental properties for the affluent future resident. This is about gentrification. I'm here because it said something about signing a petition. I thought, I'm in. Sounds like trouble in my neighborhood again. I don't know what TIF is, it's tax increment financing, but it sounds like a threat to my community. So I showed up today.
I got it. And for the record, could you tell us your name?
Denise Dickers.
Okay, thank you. All right. Anybody else in the room that wishes to speak? Mr. Courtney. Yes.
One cup.
Need you to come this way.
Come there, come center.
Well, Chair, and her response to her statement, though, I just want to make sure. How will we respond to her query?
I have-
President James, I would like to request a copy of what was just referred to. I'm not sure I'm aware
Sure.
of the communication piece that she was,
Could you give us that? I've not seen that. Okay,
or a photograph, or we could take a photograph.
yeah, our photograph.
Or can we borrow it to get a photocopy downstairs?
Thank you.
And then we'll bring it back, okay? It's too many. Wait, over there.
Thank you. Mr. Courtney.
I'm sorry, I'm not,
Yep.
he asked for a copy, but his point about responding to what you said.
Yeah, I think that the first thing is that didn't come from us. I think
Right.
That's news to us as well, but I think that we do need to digest it because that's our right on here.
Well, that, it's on there, it says the meeting is here today at 12 noon, that's
Mhm.
why I showed up.
Yeah.
Right, I haven't seen that, so I can't really address it because I don't know what it says.
President James, does she believe that, do you believe that you're in that meeting that's on that flyer?
No.
Are you,
So I
No.
feel like a fish out of water.
she thinks the meeting on the flyer is what's taking place right now, so I think there needs to be some
So,
clarification on.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go by what you read to me. And what I would say is that we are not meeting about giving wealthy developers West Louisville property, right? We're talking, so the West End TIF is a creature of state statute. It was created this past summer in the legislature. And it is designed to create a board. This is part of the board. The rest of the board hasn't been picked yet. A member from each of the 9 neighborhoods of West Louisville will also be added to this board to create the board. And the board will operate in order to help provide development in West Louisville, whatever that is to benefit the citizens of West Louisville. Whether that's to help with housing or businesses or jobs, we don't know yet. The board's gonna make those decisions, but we don't have a board yet because we still have to add the 9 members.
You didn't sign up for being a part of the board.
I'm sorry, how do you sign up for the board?
How do you sign up to be a part of?
I have a question.
Well, hang on. So the way that you sign up for the board is, we have not said that yet. One of the names that you heard me call Von Holt earlier. And so he is the chair of a committee that's made up of Mr. Smith and Ms. Hancock and Ms. Reynolds to work on that. And so we don't have that process yet.
But President James, if, is it Ms. Dickerson? If you will connect with me to give me your email, I will send you what we have as an entrance form. Okay, right now we have 325. You would be 326 people in the footprint of the 9 neighborhoods who are interested in serving either on the board or the advisory council. I will send you that form. Then your form, like all the other ones, will get submitted to the board for consideration. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Courtney.
My name is William Courtney. I'm the president of OCC project. It stands for the Ormsby Community Center Project. If you all familiar with the Ormsby building that used to be the Boys Club over on 16th and Ormsby.
Yeah.
We want to get that back open and operated to give the kids something to do. We've been sitting back and watching a whole lot. The kids don't have anything to do. When I was coming up, they had community centers in every neighborhood. They shut them down and now the kids don't have anything to do. I've been working on this project for 5 years, putting it together and getting ready to open the opportunity to get it out into the public, what we were doing. So this is what I'm about. I'm gonna pass my cards out to everybody. It's trying to get that community center opened up and something for our kids to do.
Right there. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you.
George Addison. Basically, I was sent here by a number of people who were also inquiring about what you just stated on the interest letter that went out to everyone. And they hadn't heard anything, so they always see me going up. I said, George, can you go find out? So I got sent to find out what the status of those letters were. But now that she's explained that, and I understand, I can go back and represent to them and let them know. There's a lot of interest in people wanting to be a part because of the history where they feel they've been left out, decisions have been made without them, and they find out after the fact. If there's some grant money, certain people get access, and then when everybody else finds out about it, it's now loan. So, you know, a lot of people are watching. And, you know, this is very serious. That's almost to the point where it's definitely personal for everybody out there. The ones left standing, so to speak, who've watched the neighborhood kind of degrade in one sense, and then all of a sudden magic money pops up for certain avenues or corridors. So I'm just saying, proceed, try to make this as public as possible, even with the interest letters. People need to hear periodically what the status is, so they don't send me. But, you know, I think you're doing a good job, and I look forward to us being able to do something meaningful finally in this community or across the city. Thanks.
All right,
Want to make sure you have my email.
thank you.
Yeah, Rita.
Okay, yeah.
Haven't seen Rita since she was on my television show.
Was there anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, ma'am.
I'll email you.
All right.
My name is Ebony Cochran, and I have several questions. I'll just go down the line until you stop me. I do want to make a observation about Ms. Dickerson's mention of the letter that she received. It's going to be important for this board to understand how community works. And so if the community is concerned about an issue, they're going to tell people when these boards meet. So the letter, the flyer she's given you is more than likely about this meeting. It's just that you all didn't put that flyer out. So that's something you guys gonna have to get up to speed on how community works in order for this to be successful. Okay. Another thing, the timeline, in my opinion, is important on how you guys elect, appoint, or whatever these additional 9 folks for the board, because we don't want you guys making decisions as this 12-member board without those other 9 folks. So you guys shouldn't really be making, I don't think, serious decisions about this TIF without community board members. Okay. These are kind of recommendations, questions, because you guys haven't made decisions yet, but just looking into the future. Will there be a minimum percentage of funding that goes to projects of people who live in West Louisville? That's what I want you guys to consider. Will there be a limit on the number of outside developers or people who don't live in West Louisville who get dollars for their projects? I would like for you to consider that. Okay, hold on, I'm sorry. I've had 4 minutes, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
There just went 2, Ebony. No.
All right, that. You know, I'm not gonna take up your time.
Ebony.
Ebony Cochran. But yeah, but just to kind of elaborate on what I'm talking about is that a lot of people in the community see this as an opportunity for outside developers to swoop in, take some land, get their projects done. But we have a wealth of talent and knowledge living in West Louisville, or people who are maybe even living outside of Louisville that have done West End, who have done so many good things in this community. And so this board needs to make an intentional, conscious effort to identify projects that people have been struggling with for years. He just mentioned one of his projects. People have been struggling to do so many good things in West Louisville, but they just haven't had the capital and they haven't had the support because too many boards are looking for, you know, the right people that are but they don't consider those of us in West Louisville the right people. We have tons of good ideas. We know how to engage our youth. We know how to engage our neighbors. We love West Louisville. We have a stake in West Louisville. And so I hope that you all are very intentional about being in the community and visiting different people's projects. Maybe you guys should have host some different project days, like and have people come in and talk about their projects to you. And I am curious to know too, how you guys are gonna go about choosing projects, or are you guys gonna choose the projects? So anyway, I'm rambling now, but that's.
All right.
I probably have more questions.
So thank you. Wait, 1 second. Just to address Ms. Cochran, we agree with you. And we are, that's why you haven't seen us making any big decisions. Our next big decisions that we want to make are related to bringing on the extra 9 people. And once that happens, then we can start discussing that. But the questions that you asked were good questions, but we're not going to address those questions till we have the 9 people on board. Okay? All right. That's Rebecca.
I'd like to make a suggestion to the board that we have, either like a fact sheet or very simple to understand what a tip is and how it works, because I want to set the record straight about that we're not taking renters and homeowners money. And I think that the community needs to understand what that is and how it works. The incremental part is what exists now and the additional revenue that would be brought in because of new development. Not that new developers are necessarily getting handed money. And I think that's just really important for everybody to, if we can create something that can go on the
Sure.
website and be handed out and emailed out, would be helpful.
Excellent idea.
I'd be happy to start.
I was getting ready to say, since that was your idea, I think you would be excellent.
It's on the website. I was trying to get on it. I can't get on the website. I think.
President James, on that note, would it not be a good idea maybe, because I know it's gonna take some time to select the 9 neighborhoods. So as you continued with the board meeting, maybe we can have a time in there, an educational piece where you address. You can post things and you can do all of that, but to have people in the room that can explain, or a presentation or a discussion like we're doing now, where people can also have questions specific to the TIF. Because I think that there's a lot of misinformation, and it would be great to put factual information out there, then people have what they need then to make informed decisions.
I agree.
President James, this is Gina Dunlap. I would also like to make a recommendation or a comment, having been in the virtual setting. I think it would be helpful that all the board members identify themselves and their position on the board as they make comments. So Rebecca Flyshaker, I appreciate your comments, but I think it's helpful for everybody tuning in to understand your role on the board.
Sure. Thank you, Gina. Sorry. Rebecca Flyshaker. I am ex officio member because of leading economic development for the city of Louisville.
Why don't we just go around the table,
Yeah.
so everyone knows who we are?
I was gonna say.
Okay, I'm David Kaplan, I'm an attorney, and I'm on the board, one of the gubernatorial appointments, because they had to have somebody that had a foundation background, so I was a chair of that's called Jewish Heritage Fund for Excellence, that does grant making in healthcare and has done grant making all over the community, but they wanted a foundation rep, so I'm hopefully bringing some expertise on grant making and how to deploy monies into a community in a way that will actually improve healthcare outcomes and improve quality of life and make things better for the community.
Good afternoon. My name is Dawn Blady. I was appointed by the mayor to sit on the board. I am a managing partner, chief strategy officer of a company called Nimbus. And we do marketing for and with them, the United States. But the reason I'm on the board is I think I'm probably one who is more of a, I don't know any of the board members, but it's more so that I have outside people looking in. We attempted to work with the mayor on some stuff before, and I was more of a disruptor. So I think that my unbiased view with community is why he asked me to sit on the board from that perspective.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jennifer Hancock, and I'm the CEO of Volunteers of America. We are a nonprofit organization providing affordable housing, addiction recovery services, other kinds of services, helping those who are unhoused in the community, behavioral health services, community health worker services in West Louisville. And I'm here because of the legislation that included Volunteers of America on the board.
And my name's David James, and I currently serve as the chair of the board, but it's just an interim chair until we get the other 9 members on and everybody gets to vote on who we want to be the chair. My regular life job is I'm the president of city council.
I'm Frank Smith. I am the representative appointed by Simmons College of Kentucky to fulfill the legislation's requirement for representative of Simmons. Particularly, we are Louisville's HBCU, and traditionally among the 101 HBCUs, there are opportunities from the White House and through legislation that enable HBCUs to leverage community economic development in their respective communities. And so I'm here to listen first and foremost to what the community is expressing that they need and want. I'm here to fight for the interests of the residents and for this community, and to learn and then seek out the best models of how HBCU here can do what other HBCUs have done to make the 30 million turn into 30 million more ad infinitum as best as we can in this community. So we want to bring Black-led institutional presence to support the residents of Louisville, West Louisville.
I'm Christina Shadle. I'm the Director of Investment at the Louisville Urban League. The Urban League has an institutional seat on the board. I'm the representative for that. The Urban League is a 100-year-old civil rights organization that focuses on justice, education, health, and housing.
Gina?
I'm sorry, Gina Dunlap, representing the Louisville branch of the NAACP. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mark.
Mark?
Sure. Let me try this. I'm Mark Watkins. I'm the representative from the University of Louisville. I am the Chief Operating Officer, and I'm looking forward to supporting the efforts to bringing new value and things to the West End.
Thank you. And Lena?
Hi, everyone. I'm Lena Muldoon. I'm the Intergovernmental Affairs Liaison in the Mayor's Office. I am not a board member, but I assist Rebecca Fleischaker.
Thank you. And then Mr. Brown?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm J. Michael Brown. I am the governor's at-large appointment to this board. My day job is I am the secretary of the governor's executive cabinet, which is the, like Mr. Watkins, I'm sort of the chief operating officer of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And I am here because of the governor's commitment when he agreed to sign this legislation into law, that we were going to have a piece of legislation, have an endeavor that was going to be transparent and that was actually going to produce results for the West End of Louisville.
Jeff Taylor.
And then Mr. Taylor, Jeff Taylor.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Jeff Taylor. I'm Commissioner of Business Development for the state of Kentucky. I'm filling in for Secretary Hayes and Secretary of the Cabinet. Down is to recruit the industry, such as the announcement of Blue Oval in Hardin County. I have 40 years of economic development experience, much of that focused on minority economic development. Spent 35 years with TVA, where I established minority economic development programs in 7 states, 3 in Kentucky. Bowling Green, Paducah, and Hopkinsville were Minority Economic Development Initiative, acronym MEDI, still exist. I specialized in procurement, peer-to-peer lending, micro lending, gap financing, and revolving loan funds.
All right, thank you.
I think that's everybody on.
All right, so now we're gonna hear from the people that wish to speak that are virtual. If you could, oh, sorry. Oh, we have one more in the room, I'm sorry.
What time it is? Okay, good afternoon. My name is Amira Granger. I'm pleased that there is the allowance made today for.
On the recording, step in, so, okay.
I'm glad there was allowance made for community members to speak. I was disappointed to see initially that it wasn't there, but I'm glad that there was an amendment to make that happen. I will say that I would like to see more concrete numbers presented. So I get to piggyback from what the lady said and what this lady shared. That document needs to outline how it's gonna come about. Senator Neal had a meeting, I think on Thursday night. We discussed numbers, but it's still like this 1 minute, so here it's like a moving target in terms of where is the money going to come from? And if it's not gonna come from Western residents, then why it's being presented this way? So either we're gonna be paying for it or. So I would like to see that broken down because 1 minute it was mentioned that it's connected to housing development and taxes on your house. The next minute, it was from sales tax. The next minute, we don't know. So I think that needs to be clarified. It's not so much that I think people can't understand the legislation as it's written, but that part's not spelled out. And so people say, well, wait, the board will determine that. But if we're waiting and then also being told to save $10 a week for the next 20 years, how does that gel together for us to be comfortable with whatever it is we're moving forward with? So I would like to see that broken down in two ways, how it affects the residents and also how it's intended to be designed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Man, make
Yeah. Sure, Ms. Hancock.
One of the things that we heard at the last meeting that I heard as kind of a subtext to your comments that I think is important for the board to be responsive to. I know Senator Neal and Representative Stevenson are having hosting community forums, right, on Zoom, I guess, still. And I feel like our board needs to get synced up with that communication. Because we heard some things at the last meeting that I don't know if it's a problem of the telephone game where things are getting misconstrued or miscommunicated back. But I do feel like we need some structural solution to make sure that we're synced up with those other communications that are occurring in the community.
Now it's like that board, because I go to those, okay? And we're talking about taking time and questions back. I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't, because I have bad news and I told I was sick. What may be appreciated.
Well, there you are, so you're,
I'm Yolanda Walker.
okay.
President of the California Neighborhood Leadership Council. What may be helpful, if some of you could come, maybe not all, but when these things are being done and the community is asking questions, that they can get as fast answers as you could give during the process of this. Because to get, it's frustrating. I don't know the answer. I got to go back and read the legislative, but you championed it. You are asking communities for 20 years. This tax funding is going to happen. And we pay taxes. And every November, we pay it. So what does it look like? As the lady said, what does it look like? What is the intent? If it's not for the developers, why can't you tell me you champion this? Why do you take the community and kick them out as if they don't have common sense to be in knowing my pocket, my money, I gotta pay it. Fees are gonna happen, LG, life is gonna happen. Here's another, I don't wanna call it burden, but that's the only word I can think of. Here's another burden in my pocket that I got to pay. Because if I don't pay my taxes, then I get a lien. If I don't pay the lien, my property's gone. That may not be your intent, but that is the triple effect of what will happen if I'm on a fixed income and I can't take that added burden because that 80% is coming off of all the taxes, but I gotta put mine in the pot. So if one or two can come on and be, I understand their schedules, like I said, we're out now. When that, so that maybe it's not the miss and people are not feeling, but you're telling us to be positive. You're telling us don't bring no negativity. Well, the people not bringing negativity, they are asking a question, like the forms you got and you see it. People are asking questions because you are telling us this, so we need to know that. I got you.
All right. All right, so,
Chairman,
Oh, sorry.
yes, I'm sorry.
Tell them to come off mute.
I didn't hear.
Sorry,
that.
Jeff.
Chairman James,
Yes, sir.
this is Jeff Taylor. Along with the suggestions made by Rebecca and others, I think it would be really good if there was just a public forum where there was a verbal PowerPoint presentation made on a TIF district, how they work and the nuts and bolts. I can sense the hesitation that a lot of people, they think their property rates may increase to a maximum of 3 years. Any new redevelopment is frozen, but the projected new revenue is allocated towards specific funds that go back into the district. The issue here is that we have to make sure that local residents have access to capital can become investors. But I think if there was a public forum that gave the specific nuts and bolts of how this worked, followed up by a Q&A period, it would be very helpful.
I agree with you. That's exactly what I was going to say.
I have a question from the queue.
But 1 second. Dr. Smith.
I want to just to what you said concerning the other meetings. I have resisted going to the meetings in that I don't want to speak as a board member in any way that alludes to the fact that we are ready to make any action because we do not have all of the board members on. And I am passionate about making sure that we do not come across as authoritative, as someone mentioned, until we get all of the board members on. Let me also add just now, while I'm speaking, I serve on the committee with others, with our chair, Devon Holt. And I do want you to know that we are considering, I can't go into any detail because I want to defer to the chair. And he was supposed to be on. I pray that he is safe in his travels because we have not been able to make contact with him. But what I would say, we are looking at a model that would allow the residents from the 9 neighborhoods to, in a committee effort, make their own recommendations of who would surface to the board as potential members. We're not looking at a model on the committee, which we have to present this to the full board to get sanction on. But we are striving to make sure that the community residents are empowered to, in their selection process, and we'll fine tooth comb it, make sure that you, as the 9 neighborhoods to be represented, are able to select the person. And that's the process we're looking at that would come before the board for approval. So here again, I can't keep up with what Senator Neal and what Representative Stevenson is saying personally over and against what I feel is my responsibility to the co-chair, the vice chair and chair, what their direction might be for how I, as a board member, engage in this process. So I just wanted to let you hear my thinking on it. And I could stand to be corrected, but I ask the community to please recognize that I don't think I'm by myself, but those of us who are sitting here, either virtually or here, we are committed to looking at making sure that this process, I don't know what other communities have done in the nation, how TIFs have been misrepresented in other areas, but we want to make sure that what we have been handed, that we function in what is in the best interest of West Louisville residents. And there are also businesses in West Louisville. There are organizations. So it's not just residents in West Louisville. So we wanted to hear from the businesses. We want to hear from all sectors of West Louisville. Because it's going to take all sectors working together to make this work. And I just wanted to give that just from my heart as to some reservation that I have about how do we as board members speak or not speak in that context of the weekly or bi-week, twice a week meetings that happen in the community.
Thank you. There was somebody that right before Dr. Smith spoke on the.
And then you.
Yeah, it was Richard Whitlock, a community activist and organizer. First thing I want to tell the board is that you all know it's rude not to introduce yourselves. I'm on meetings all the time, and you all talk about, hey, we can trust you all. If people won't introduce themselves to our community, I think you're already shorting the community with the lack of introduction. It's a lack of respect, and it's a terrible intro. But what I would like to ask is that West Louisville has 5 representatives, not 1. We have 5 Metro Council. That's the only thing West Louisville has the opportunity to vote on. And you hear Metro Council complain all the time about how it's only 5 Blacks and they got to deal with 20 white people. So what I'm saying is this would be a great opportunity for we don't need our council people to represent Metro Council. We need our council people to represent the communities that they live in. So I know there's some legislation saying Metro Council get to pick 1 person, but I'd rather have Jessica Green represent Chickasaw than anybody else. I'd rather have Keisha Dorsey represent Algonquin than anybody else. And all is true for the same of the rest of the neighborhoods. So if y'all really want us to trust what y'all doing, put our Metro Council members on the board. It should be 5 of them.
So, hang on. So, thank you, Mr. Whitlock. The state legislation lays out who can be on the board, and that is not what it says in the state law. So I would say that if you wish for that to change, then there's a process for that. But right now we're dealing with the law that we have in front of us.
And why was the law written that way? This is what people will ask President James. Why was the law written in a way where it weakened our politicians for our community, in which automatically strengthens other people? The mayor has multiple people appointed on her, and Metro Council only get 1. We got 5 fingers. And with the piece of legislation, y'all gonna treat us like we only have one finger. And that's what really disturbs us in West Louisville. Say, hey, we're gonna come. We don't trust you all. If y'all gonna take our hand of 5 fingers and turn it into 1 finger, we have no reason to trust you all. It's a terrible start.
Yes, sir. However, we didn't write the law. And so I can't tell you exactly what everything that was written in the law, why it was written, because I didn't write it. I do know that the reason that the 9 neighborhoods are represented is because the people that wrote the law spoke to people in the neighborhoods and got input. And they originally started with 5, I think. And then they switched it to 9 based upon input from the community. But I didn't write the law, so I can't answer that question for you.
And here's what I'm saying. Who did write the law? Why did they weaken our Metro Council members? Those are the questions that we won't answer. And you pass laws. You can go and get that law amended. And that's what
No, sir.
we should be able to.
No, sir, it's a state law. I write laws for local government.
So whoever wrote it on the state, I'm not trying to argue. What I'm saying is whoever wrote it on the state level did West Louisville an injustice. And I would love for this to be part of a conversation where that could be amended if y'all want to tiff in West Louisville, because we don't trust y'all. And this city talks about equity, inclusion, and diversity. We need it for a reason. And I would tell my community not to trust y'all because y'all doing things in a way where y'all not trustworthy.
And I second that.
Okay, thank you. No, so you've already spoke. I want to let them have an opportunity.
Then we have one in the corner here.
Okay, there was somebody else. Yes.
Good afternoon to the board. I want to say there's,
Could you identify yourself, please?
my name is Shante West. I'm a social worker. There's some good people here. You guys represent good organizations, but it appears you guys have been pulled into something that you all aren't even educated on. My question would be, how many of you have ever been advisors on any TIF, have been on any board of any other TIF, or involved in any other TIF that has taken place? And so it's very concerning, and I think I said this before, that we see you all representing a lot of grass top organizations. And this is the second meeting that I've been at where we continue to ask for you to have community involvement. And that's not happening. And what you see before you as residents taking it upon themselves to try to educate the community in any way about what's going on. So you shouldn't be shocked, because you all should be doing the same things to bring the community in. And what I heard today is a lot of beating up on Senator Neal and Representative Stevenson. They may not be doing it exactly right, but they've been doing this for weeks by themselves, and they don't know any more than you all do. And so what we get is the board telling us to go back and ask them, because you don't know what they said. They tell us to come back to you and ask the board because they don't know. They continue to tell us to read the legislation as if we don't know how to read the legislation, as if we haven't already read the legislation. So what you're hearing from Mr. Whitlock, you're hearing from Ms. Yolanda, is that it doesn't sound like anybody knows what's going on. We just had somebody resign today because it sounds like this is a mess. Like, when are we moving forward? The fiscal year started July 1st, and we are no further from that date than we were. We talked about the last time about money coming in. We don't know when that's coming in. We have to, Ms. Rita's been wonderful about giving us information, but we would like to see you at some of those meetings with Senator Neal and Representative Stevenson. They're trying to do what they can with limited information, but there are people who constructed this who are now not showing up. And there may be covert objectives that maybe some of you all don't even know about, but now you're a part of that. And so that's sullying your name and your organizations by going forward and not having the information to share with the community, because it's setting you apart from the residents. And so I would hope that you all would really work towards doing something different and getting everybody on task. And not just talking about the 9 people. Like you said today, there was a recommendation at the last board meeting for you to set aside time for residents to talk. Yet here we are today having to decide in the middle of the agenda that we were going to let people talk. And that's why the meeting had to be disrupted before, because people keep trying to talk to you and nobody is listening, as if we are a nuisance when we come here and ask questions. If you can't answer the question, just say that and we can help you. We can be in partnership. We're studying like you are. But if you don't know, don't be ashamed to say that. You guys are caught in a mess. Hopefully this TIF won't move forward. And at the rate that we're going, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. We'll be to the next fiscal year before we even start looking at the 9 people. So I would just implore you all, you know, I don't know what you can do, and maybe some of you don't even want to be on the board anymore. And maybe you should look seriously at doing that. If you can't get some answers to the holes in this legislation where you all as the board still can't even answer questions, because you told us the last time there were some things you didn't know, you would go back and find out. Who are you finding out from? The people who wrote the legislation, who don't bother themselves with coming to these meetings anymore? Because when Black Lives Matter Louisville had a meeting about the TIF at first, there was a couple of developers that were on there that are not in these meetings, and I haven't seen in one meeting yet. That's why people are concerned, because we have these wealthy developers that show up when the bill's being written, but then when the community's talking, they're nowhere to be seen. They'll show up again when the money comes rolling in and there's projects that you all can fund. Some of you all are friends with some of those people. That makes residents uncomfortable. We don't have personal relationships with people who might be running for mayor or might be running for other political positions. The people, the residents in this room are concerned about their family, their property, and what's going to happen in the future. So a lot of people here don't live in West Louisville. And so you don't have any skin in the game. It's easy to sit here and legislate from a seat where you live in Eastern Jefferson County. Maybe you live in Old Louisville, But that's not the same as being a resident of West Louisville. So, we don't think you're bad people, but you guys need to ask questions of the people who brought you here, whether it was the mayor, the governor, or whatever. Maybe they need to come here too and answer some of these questions that we're putting you all on the hot seat for. What did you sign up for?
Shante, thank you, for the comment in terms of information, but what would be very helpful for me? Because in this interim process, I'm trying to help to put the agenda together, okay? What would be helpful is for the community or somebody, when you have these particular issues that you want on the agenda, to please reach out. Because it wasn't on the agenda today. I know at the last meeting, we talked about having the space on the agenda and the board's getting to that. But, all of this today, I just need to be able to connect with somebody. Ebony, you call me, we talk all the time. When there's certain issues that you want on the agenda, because we do have to abide by the open meetings, rules and regulations. But there's a way of doing this. I just need somebody to communicate to me, what do we want to talk about? What do we want to cover? What do we want to put it over there on me? I need your help with that. And that would help the board as they are coming together, trying to figure out, the process. So that would, I put that out there for consideration. Please, if there are particular specific issues, like Rebecca talked about earlier, if there's the whole thing about this TIF, whatever it is, get with me so that we can put the agenda together for this board to help it to be community driven. So we're not just showing up and then having to incorporate time like we're doing right now.
But we can see at that last meeting that we were gonna add the community to the agenda. So that's a small thing. So if you can't start with that one small thing.
Right.
What trust is there that anything else that we talk about
Right.
is going to get on?
Well, my hat's off to Vice Chair Gina Dunlap for stepping up to do that today. And we've had the time to do that. But it doesn't have to be that way. If we plan, if we communicate, and if we talk about what it is you want on the agenda, we can do this in advance. And it's not, the perception then will not be an afterthought, because the thought would have been in the prep for it. So we know what to expect when we come here for the public forum piece of it. So I just reach out for that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Wait a minute, wait. Yes,
My name is Lisa Wilson, and I wanted to say this from both our sides, let me say that, because I'm on the calls on Thursdays and Saturdays. I've been working with this since the beginning. I'm a cosmetology instructor. I run an entire cosmetology program, and so I teach my students all about community ethics. I'm training them to start their own businesses. I help them try to get homes, like you name it, I'm in all aspects of it. What I want to say is, because I'm actually here working, so I probably shouldn't be doing too much talking, but I just got to say this. We keep telling the board or asking the board what it is that they need to do. I really want to say that I respected your comment where you said as a board member, because when you are in a legal situation, because it's a statute, everybody has to be careful if they are in legal seats, like we're citizens, so we can just say whatever we want to say. Freedom of speech. They have to be very careful. So one minute we tell them they better say this, they better say that, and the next minute we mad because they're not saying this and they're not saying that. So what I've asked on Thursday call and Saturday call, and I'm gonna ask one more time. As the board is trying to position themselves and get together, why don't we as the community figure out what we're gonna do and who we're gonna use in the community? Because we can come back every week with these questions, but we don't have anything on paper, just like they have an agenda, we should have an agenda. We need somebody from each and every neighborhood to start forming. I keep saying that. What are we gonna do once the board is organized? Then what we gonna do? Because actually, like I'm dealing with the board now myself in my career, you have to write in 10 days ahead of time to even be able to speak. You can only speak for 5 minutes and they do not have to answer you, but they do have at the meeting, but they have to answer you in writing. Why is that? Because it keeps order. Because if not, everybody's just doing a whole lot of talking and nothing ever gets done. So I'm all for trying to help anybody any way I can. My school will utilize people need flyers, all that kind of stuff like, but we gotta come together as a community because we can't keep saying they're not doing what they're supposed to do if we're not even giving them time to do it. Like, they're not even talking about selecting other members because we having meetings about everything else. I'm not saying none of this stuff is not important. Trust me, it is. But we can get it all out there. They still can't decide until they get the other 9 members. So all I'm just asking is, can somebody, whoever you are, leaders in your neighborhood, if we can step up and say, I'm gonna be responsible for helping my neighborhoods, 9 neighborhoods get organized to be ready for when the board is in place. And I'm willing to help in any way I can.
All right, thank you. Hang on.
Coalition of West Louisville Neighborhoods Associations, you should connect with them. Thank you.
All right, we're still dealing with people on the virtual comments. Who's next?
Donovan Taylor just had his hand up.
Donovan Taylor.
With Donovan.
Yes, sir. He wants to.
I just want you to say, definitely for the young lady who just stood up, that, you definitely connect with the Coalition of West Louisville Neighborhood Associations, who's trying to take an active effort on organizing our 9 neighborhoods, definitely as it regards to this West End TIF. I do like to say, and I would like to, piggyback on many of the other interviews who made comments that our board has to actively engage. I would like to thank Councilman James and Reverend Smith, who did come out with the Coalition of West Louisville Neighborhoods at our meeting in the Californian Park on the West End TIF, but we just need to have more engagements with our board members coming out and actively engaging with our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then next on is Danita.
I think it was Sadiqa and then me, David.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Reynolds.
Yeah, since I'm not on the board now, I do think it's important for this board to understand the history of how this was created. I think it's important that the community members are saying who was behind this, who created it. And I think we do owe it to the community to talk about that, because you have referenced President James several times. Well, that legislation was drafted, I think in response to Richard Whitlock. You talked about the state drafting the legislation. Well, somebody was behind that. And if that was a developer, I think the community needs to understand that. There is a concern, and it is a very real concern, because as we see reinvestment in Black and Brown communities, you never really see that in this country without displacement. So at a time when homelessness is increasing, so are rental prices. So as improvements are made, people have a right to be concerned. We understand there's some carve-outs in the legislation around tax value and tax property taxes. But those protections are for homeowners. Only 24% of West Louisville residents own their homes. So we've got to figure out as we move forward how we talk about protecting people on the rent side. We've got to deal with that. The other thing is, I think it's a good point that Shanta raises, that most of us on this board have not had experience with the TIF, do not understand what the negative impact could be on residents. We do need to have an economist help come and inform us. And so these are things that might be future facing, but they do have to be addressed. I think it is so important for us to recognize that the community has every right to raise the issues that they are raising. And so to the extent that you have the capabilities to put an agenda together that shows that you are in fact going to pay attention to those issues, I think you might bring some comfort, but there should be no trust right now. Many people in that room don't even understand the politics of how this was created. You don't realize the politics of pushing off the person who was appointed by the governor to represent the Fed and why that might be political or not. You don't necessarily understand the ties to this organization or that. I think it is really important to explain all of that and to be transparent. And I think it should happen in one of these meetings. And the reason for that is that the community is here. They're clearly paying attention to what you are doing. You don't need a special session. We just need time. And I think also as you move forward, there should be an opportunity each time for community to speak and to respond to what they're hearing and to be able to inform it. There's no one of us that can speak for any organization or group that we're in. And the last thing I'll say, and this is important, and I just thought of it, President James, I don't know what the legislation says about which council person, but I do think it is an interesting idea to have other council members. Again, not that they would represent the neighborhoods, because the neighborhoods should be represented by community members. But I do think there may even be at some point some consideration to have a council person in your seat that actually lives in the West End. So I think that these residents raise issues that are deeply concerning to me and to the Urban League. I am scared of this TIF. I think it can work, but it has to be, we have to ensure that we build in some protection for rent, that we build in a pathway to Black ownership, and that we listen to these residents around what projects they want and who gets to put projects forward. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you. Gina Dunlap, you're the vice chair. I need you to handle things for a bit.
Absolutely. Happy to do so. Thank you, Ms. Reynolds. And we should have others. Are there others in the virtual queue who would like to address the board?
Yeah, this is Danita Wright. And I'm a part of the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Associations. And I'm also with the Louisville Community Grocers, which is a cooperative. Now speaking personally to the WEOP board, as Danita Wright, I would suggest that you pay attention to what the community is talking about all their fears, and to how to make this thing work, since it's brand new and since it's never been done anywhere in the nation. You do realize that this setup for this particular TIF is something that's never been done anywhere else. So you have a chance to set a precedence for this whole nation and other cities that are, especially the disenfranchised parts of other cities. If you would take this one thing that I've been researching, which is, in order for this to be successful, keep in mind community ownership and private businesses can work together. If you have the developments be community owned, and then the businesses come in as private businesses and they work out of these community owned developments. That way the monies will stay in this. That's an insurance that the monies will stay in this area. If you look at all of the TIFs in all of the cities outside of Kentucky, all the way to the West Coast, the North and the South, you see that the bad thing about the bad rep that the TIFs were getting is that the money that was promised for those particular areas were taken out of those areas and put into other areas. So to ensure that the money stay in this area, keep in mind cooperatives, keep in mind community economics, keep in mind that the developments should be community owned and businesses should rent out of those community owned developments. To the people, to the residents on here, that was to the WEOP board, to the residents on here, in order for us to establish an environment like that, you need to get engaged with your neighborhood associations. If you don't have one, build one. If you have one, make it stronger. Go out there to your neighbors and to your friends and family and get them on those neighborhood association boards, councils or associations, so make them committed and make them see that the stronger our voices are, is the strength of our voice is the strength of the commitment of our community members, our residents. You've got to get the people involved in these neighborhood associations. That's what we, the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Associations, are trying to do, build up these neighborhood associations. But we need your help. We need you to go to your family, go to your friends, go to your next door neighbors, walk through, canvas it with somebody or a lot of folks, and get them involved with find out who your neighborhood association is and get on that board, get on that association. And then I tell you what you do next, come to us. Come to the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Association so we can be one big cohesive voice. My email is D as in David, E as in Edward, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple again, Deanna, 17610 at AOL.com. I'm gonna put it in the chat for those of you who are able to see it in the chat. Come to us and we will even help you build these neighborhood associations. But that's what it's gonna take. We're gonna have to build ourselves up for that big voice in order to have community economics. No longer will there be workers. You won't be called a worker in this area. In this area, you will be a worker owner. You'll have the opportunity to have investments in businesses, several businesses in this area. You'll have the opportunity to own your own apartment complex. You'll be the part owner of your own apartment complex. So the landlord couldn't be a slumlord. You know why? Because it is the tenants of that particular apartment complex that can put the landlord out. You switch up businesses. That's what I mean about these private businesses coming into your developments. Them renting out to you. Let's flip this script. This has never happened anywhere else in this nation, you guys. We have a chance to set a precedence for disenfranchised, and I keep on reiterating disenfranchised. This can happen in disenfranchised areas of town. Is where this could happen the best, in disenfranchised areas of town. We can own the developments and then rent them out to private businesses.
Thank you, Ms. Danita, and thank you for putting your contact information into the chat. That will remain available as the meeting video and chat log are available on the website. I'm just going to take the next person who has their virtual hand up. That would be Mr. Donovan Taylor. If you can, maybe try to go for 4 minutes, but please, you have the floor, Mr. Taylor.
I spoke already. Thank you. I don't know if you guys can raise my hand down.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Mick Bentelson, if you could limit your comments to 4 minutes, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be 30 seconds or less. My name is Bentley McBendelson. I'm a Portland resident. Super quick comment on this. It seems like a lot of the issues that are happening on this particular public comment section has to do with easy access to information, perhaps to discourse with the board, and just clarity on of the purpose of the board in general. I'm a digital marketer, and I would just like to volunteer my services. I sent you guys an email at the start of this meeting, and anything you want done, just reach out to me. Jennifer Hancock and I volunteered together a little bit at Volunteers of America, and just want to put my hat in there.
Thank you so much for the offer. The next digital hand I see is from Jessica. You have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Bellamy. I am here representing the Historically Black Neighborhood Assembly, or HBN Assembly for short. I hope you can hear me. I'll take my time so that folks get my main point. So I am also a researcher. And I've looked into this legislation very deeply. And with all of the work I've done, looking into TIFs, looking into what actually happened with this particular legislation, and what community has been saying. Folks from the West End approached us because we represent all historically Black neighborhoods, Berrytown, Smoketown, and the many in the West End, and whomever would like to come to us is fine. We are just here to support whatever community concerns in whatever form they need. We are not necessarily an organization that's trying to collect members. We are here to be of service in these moments, to provide insight. And when folks ask us to come into space, is to build capacity around what residents have those concerns and issues around. And from that, what I've noticed from this space is not only is there a strong understanding, a strong misunderstanding of what a TIF is, because TIFs are inherently bad. There's not a good TIF because it takes money directly out of residents' pockets and puts it into a fund that is outside of democratic control. And so therefore, it is not an opportunity necessarily for any development if your goal is to make sure that that resident can remain in their home so that they can be there with longevity. So because they have a right to remain there, and that is something we are deeply concerned about. And so what we would like to do is bring in economists to break down what a TIF is, and we're inviting folks from across the community, folks in this space, but absolutely residents, because access to information is really key here, so that folks understand that what the function of what a TIF does is a very concerning thing. And if your goal is to build something as great as a cooperative or some other type of life affirming institution that builds self-governance that can be controlled by residents so that they can gain that benefit directly, if that is your goal, then you want to be very meticulous about what you take on. You don't want to rush things like how this legislation was passed through in less than 3 months with no community input. And we already know much about that history with the TIF. We've been talking about it in the chat, but I just wanted to invite folks in this space to that event. And I wanted to highlight this in honor of Denise Dickerson, who's there in the room right now, because I thought it was a grave disrespect to not actually answer her question. The gentleman who responded to her question made it about this board, this WEOP board, which yes, there are lots of conflicts of interest that can be cited and lots of issues with who was appointed, which was written into the legislation, right? This legislation that was written not by our elected leaders, but by people from the private sector, by Craig Greenberg and Steve Poe, who are the primary authors of the legislation. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. I wanted to invite folks to that event. We'll be posting about it soon. We exist you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, but you can definitely find us at www.hbnassembly.org. I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat for folks to follow up. Thank you also, Richard Whitlock, for mentioning that respect piece, because that's something that also needs to be held in more higher regard in this space and all others, when residents are speaking, or when residents address their concerns, which have come up many a time, and they keep getting the feedback as if their concerns are non-existent and keep being devalidated. And in other spaces, they've even faced hostility and intimidation and personal attacks. And this board, all of you are culpable in that, because it doesn't seem that anything has changed from last meeting to this meeting. There needs to be a space for residents to speak. Otherwise, why would we even come to this space? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Not seeing any other virtual hands raised.
Hold on, Gina.
There's a Bentley that's been having his hand up.
He has already addressed.
Vice Chair Dunlap.
Yes.
Yes, may I ask Jessica Bellamy a couple of questions? Could you share what neighborhood you identify with of the 9? It may be helpful. And then if you could, you said something about Craig Greenberg and Steve Poe.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate further on that for the board?
Okay, well, do we have time for this? I didn't know. How about we do this? We can set up a separate session. You asked me if I'm a resident of the West End. I am not a resident of the West End. Residents of the West End are part of the HBN Assembly. I am speaking here on behalf of the HBN Assembly. Does that make sense?
No, you're fine. I was just wanting to be, I didn't ask if you were, I didn't mean to be, I wanted to just simply, if you identify with one of the 9.
The nine neighborhoods are within the West End. There are more Black neighborhoods other than those that are in the West End, that are in
Thank
Louisville.
you. Thank you so much. Go right ahead.
I just wanted to, this is Gina Dunlap, Vice Chair, just wanted to make sure that any other attendees in the virtual space have had an opportunity to address the board. So I don't see any virtual hands raised that haven't been addressed, but this is an opportunity to address the board if you would like to do so.
Did you get your second question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I wanted, for me, and forgive me, but I wanted to build on what Jessica brought up and what Sadiqa mentioned. Who else?
Do you want me to walk through it? Do you want me to? Let me, okay. You want me to walk through the history of this legislation? We can definitely do that. All right.
Ms. Bellamy, Ms. Bellamy, I'm not sure that Mr. Smith was able to complete his comment or question.
I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to respect what Sadiqa Reynolds mentioned earlier in concert with what Jessica brought up, that we as a board hear from you all, your understanding about what was behind the scenes in the drafting of this. So to me, before we go into the next meeting, I would like to benefit from that information personally as a board.
Well,
member.
let me just say this as so I think it is obvious to everyone that when One West was created, the Urban League had a seat on that board. Christina Shadle sits on the One West board. She has not missed a meeting or a committee meeting that she is on. However, she, even as a board member of One West, learned of this TIF when I told her, when I was approached by legislators from Frankfurt the day before the press conference. We knew nothing about it, and we're not involved in any way in creating it. That doesn't necessarily matter, except that it starts with a lack of transparency, because we were under the impression that One West was indeed behind the creation of the legislation. So, you know, being a board member, you would say, well, why didn't I have any information about that? And the answer was because that was done in the back room. That was nothing that would be done at a board meeting. Subsequently, Christina Shadle was asked to resign from the One West board. And so she has not yet. That is not a part of their minutes, but that is accurate. The lawyer on One West, a woman, I cannot think of her name right now, Christina may know it. She has been advising both the drafting of this legislation and obviously One West.
That would be Amy Curry.
Okay, she was in communication all along as they were drafting this. And I think the anticipation was that the Fed seat would not be filled by me, but instead by someone else. When the governor decided that he would appoint me because I happen to be on the Federal Reserve Board, then it was brought up that no one from the Fed could sit. And so for weeks now, months, I have been threatened with, you know, obviously removal, because now all of a sudden the Fed can't be represented and probably never could have. But I think that issue might not have been raised if someone other than me were appointed, because we have been raising some issues with this TIF. We have the concerns that the community has. It is very scary to think about people being displaced. I am not suggesting to you that there is any sinister motivation behind this. I think people want to see the West End redeveloped. Unfortunately, they don't always think about the unintended consequences. And when you sit on a board in meetings and you still don't know what's going on, you cannot inform yourself or your organization or the community that you are trying to support, that is very troubling. the appearance to the community is that Christina Shadle is there on the board and has a seat at One West. And so therefore, you know, there's this conflict of interest, when in reality, she is no longer wanted on the One West board. And in fact, I mean, that just is what it is. And it is clear to me that I have not been wanted on this board, and not necessarily from the people in the room, but clearly from others. And so that's the beginning. That is some of it. There is certainly more, and there are probably things that I do not know because I have not been in communication. But several times, I think Shanta West said it best. This is a mess. And this community deserves transparency. There is a lot at risk here.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you, Sadiqa. I just wanted to make sure folks know I'm talking about something different too. I'm talking about the origin of the legislation because the establishing the entire West End as a TIF did not come out of community anything, which that was cited by a couple of folks that support the TIF, saying that there was some conversation in 2019. No, in 2015, you have Steve Poe, who was interviewed by Business First in proposing his idea that yes, the West End should become a TIF district. And why? Because he is a businessman, he is a developer, he is trying to make profit. And what does the TIF do? It extracts from those who live in it to create this slush fund outside of democratic control for that development to happen. And the only way that TIFs exist, that the I of the TIF, that increment, it requires increases in property taxes, crushing increases that will displace thousands of residents. So whether or not we address the conflicts of interest on the board, or whether or not even residents are allowed to be on the board, I think we are doing a huge misstep in not addressing the fact that the TIF itself is the problem. There are so many other ways to fund development that actually will impact that community. When we say that development is a tide that lifts all ships, it is not true in the case of current residents. If in that metaphor, they would have no boats, no ship at all, not even a lifesaver. They'd be sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Only boats will be lifted by the tide. And that means folks that are making over $35,000 in annual median income, which is not the vast majority. It is not. We know that from the data. You know, it is my job. I work at the Root Cause Research Center. And I am steeped in data constantly from this city, from other organizations, from other cities. I am constantly analysis about what this housing crisis is, how we got here, and what we can do. And I'm always looking for solutions that are guided by those who know the most about it, which are those who have the problem, right? If you look at the residents that are currently in the West End, we know that based on income alone, that an influx in property values will destroy them. They will drown at the bottom of that ocean. So whomever's on the board doesn't matter when people are drowning. Whether or not we take the money and build a cooperative, it doesn't matter if people are drowning. That's what I think folks need to take away the most, if nothing else from this space, that whatever happens with this TIF, people are going to drown. Are you okay with that, Blood? I'm not. We already treat houseless folks like they have no property rights, and the police are allowed to throw their things away and criminalize them for existing in space, even though those are the kids that are going to school with your kids right now, because we have a huge housing crisis, y'all. And we all keep saying racial equity. Stop talking about ideology and let's get to the material. Let's get to the material. Let's all come to this panel of economists who are going to break down the TIF so folks actually know what it means. It is unacceptable for us to continue to talk about who's on this board and who deserves to be on the board when this is a tool that will drown tens of thousands of folks. You know, this is a huge, huge responsibility, 60,000 households worth of responsibility. And we should not continue to move in any direction until we have deeply investigated and done our due diligence. Otherwise, it is naive and just dangerously irresponsible to continue to hold spaces like this. It is. I hope that you understand from my tone of voice that it's not just my passion, it's my understanding of what's happening here, my crystal clear vision that I'm trying to impart onto this space. And I know that this might not do it. So let's go ahead and talk to economists. Let's talk to the specialists. You know, everything else is moot outside of that.
Thank you, Jessica. Just out of respect for time, I just want to acknowledge that by my watch, we have about 2 minutes left in the appropriated time. I don't know if that's going to leave us time as a board to find our next board meeting, but I really want to appreciate or extend my appreciation to everyone who has provided input today. I think it's extremely rich and dense, and would encourage all of my fellow board members to take advantage of the recording that we have to really break down and dig into the feedback, suggestions, and requests that have been put forth in this meeting today. With that, I'll turn it back over to the chair, President James. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. You did a good job. So our next, and I want to thank everybody that took the time to come to the meeting today, and thank everybody that took the time to provide some input. So our last item of business, if we can do this real quick, is try to figure out when we're going to meet again. I'm going to throw out a date. You all say yes or no, and we keep going from there. November 6th, Saturday, November 6th, at the last meeting, we were told that Saturday seemed to work better for the community, so that's why we're having it today. And so I'm going to throw out that we try that again for the November the 6th. Is there anybody that doesn't work for? If so, we'll try another day.
Not work for me.
Okay.
Rebecca, pleasure.
All right. Rebecca says it does not work for her. How about the 13th? November the 13th.
Works for me. Mark Watkins.
Well, I shouldn't have said that. I should have looked before. How about the 20th? Sorry, 13th doesn't work for me.
We're getting too close to the holidays. I think we should wait that far out to meet. I'm thinking the 26th and the 13th. Trying to be.
We've been evening, is that time for people to be able to join us?
Sure. How about
Suggestion last time was to alternate, Dr.
Oh, that's right.
To alternate one Saturday and then like an evening on a Thursday or something, but not on Metro Council days or whatever evening.
Those in the community, it does work for you all coming here today.
Yeah.
Where, well, the people did go.
Can benefit.
So that's not. Are you all?
It's from Jessica. Bill.
Last time.
I'll get it.
No. Location is acceptable, parking wise, you know, however people get there, but a lot of times the transportation element made it. This location is much better.
We do an evening of the week, the 7th.
November the week of the 7th. How about the 8th, Monday, the 8th in the evening? Didn't get a chance to see all the reason that she's apart. Won't work, okay. How about
Okay.
Tuesday, the 9th in the evening?
Works for me, Mark Watkins.
Uh-huh.
Works for me.
Works for Mark.
No, sorry,
Okay.
not for me.
Does not work.
I'm in Carlisle at a meeting that night.
Okay. How about the 12th? It's a Friday. The evening of the 12th.
Tuesday, sorry.
The 12th, Friday the 12th.
What time?
How about Friday the 12th? We'll say 6 o'clock. Okay. Sure. Yeah, still searching. How about Monday, November 1st in the evening.
November, you mean 15th? Oh, November 1st.
That's fine. Maybe.
Work for Rebecca.
Yes.
Monday, November 1st.
I mean, that's not even 3 weeks away, is that okay?
Yeah.
That'll work.
Sunday, November 1st,
15th,
6
so-
p.m.
Everybody virtually, does that work with you all? November the 1st in the evening?
I'm not available, David, but that doesn't stop this group from doing it.
I won't be here either, David. David, I'm out.
You're out, okay. That won't work, thank you.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
Showing current day.
Yeah. Before, very Saturday.
We could do a variant, correct. I didn't hear you. No, no,
Okay.
Did you try Monday the 8th,
Did I try Monday the 8th?
November 8th?
I don't think Dr. Wade was, you weren't able to do it that day, right?
In the evening, I can make that.
Okay. How about Monday, November the 8th in the evening at 6 o'clock? Monday the 8th at 6 o'clock. Going once.
Anybody feel like it's okay, I'm in trial, it's also something to be done that day, but let's put it down. All
right.
I love the best, will be there.
Okay.
And if I have to attend by phone for.
All right. Monday, November the 8th, 6 p.m. is the date. And Christina Shea.
One more, I'd like to resign.
You.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so for you all that may not have heard, Christina Shadle says that she wishes to resign from the board. Well, I guess I would say thank you for your service then. Okay. All right,
So we get another Urban League representative,
right. Do we get another appointment from the Urban League?
the governor's appointment, so.
Right.
Thank you.
J. Michael Brown. J. Michael Brown, are you there?
I am.
Christina Shadle just submitted her resignation, and she is the representative that the governor appointed from the Urban League. Could you work with the governor to try to get another appointment from the Urban League?
We can absolutely do that.
Okay, thank you.
President James, we would also need Christina something in writing. Anybody who resigns, we need something in writing. You don't mind. Thank you.
All right. With no further business to attend to, we are adjourned.
We have a quick turnout on.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Well, I can go get my. Thanks. All right.
I know, I'll get them that. Okay. So I got. I'll forget to vegetarian. Because I know that's one part. Well, you have done my culture. It's just important that it's more of a true mind. I'm being quiet on the back to good. And you do great. You've heard a lot of. Now, I'm not understood. That. It's not my, should also be. Both are regions, because I'm going to talk about meetings. What's on the should be like. Every water. Add like that I was like, great, because I really feel like, but I'm here to call sign off with anybody, it's my first. It's like, I'm not buying. I think our person put it off. And that's what I don't know about the night. It's very right. It's our. Was it business? Right here. Take two. That's what's. But so let's just not like all of it. She has agreed for companies. Give you long. Now be part of that. So. That's why I'm thinking. But that's like. People are very distracted.
That's the same. Talking about this. Yes. That's project.
Just remember that is this correct that it has to time. Rita. Yeah, we ended.
I'm gonna see my elderly stepmom now. Yeah, take it easy. Fire.